Alrighty. Welcome to the stream part 2. Hopefully we'll be less crashy compared to this morning. So yeah, let's see what we're going to work on today, or this afternoon rather. So earlier today we got the blood golem completed, so I'm going to go ahead and drop that down there. Cool. All right, let's take a look at some of the other content we got in the backlog here. What are we going to be working on? Let's see. Enemies that die while on fire. We don't have a fire status yet. We could do a fire status. 1 stack of movement speed when an enemy dies. Infinite ammo when taking damage. Deal damage equivalent to your current gold when picking up gold. That could be an interesting one. Flame trail when dashing. Poison cloud when dashing. Hey Eraton, welcome back to the stream. Fire status would be nice. Yeah, it could be nice. I mean, it will be nice. It'll be in the game eventually. And that is a candidate for something we can work on here. We haven't done a gun affix, though. I've done quite a few player passives. So we got a couple of affixes. I guess fire would be one of the affixes. Hey, Lorenzo. Yeah, I saw you opened an issue and then closed it, right? Did you end up getting it figured out? I'm also glad that your Godot Utilities is, or that it's helping you out. Feel free to make contributions to it if you want. There's a little bit of weirdness in the library, I think, but it works. I use it, so. Let's see. Affixes. Enemies have a chance to explode in gold. Apply charmed. Twin gun statuses. Deal increased damage the longer you stay still. Definitely useful. Okay, awesome. Well, we could do a fire status. Or if you guys have any other ideas for gun affixes that could be cool. We could also implement a new gun type, a new enemy type. Fight a mini-boss. We could do some events here. Kind of want to do a weapon affix, but these ones don't sound very creative, so we could brainstorm some weapon affixes perhaps. So a weapon affix is basically a passive that gets attached to the gun. I'm live again, yes. 2 times in 1 day. Thanks for feeding my live stream addiction. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, we'll be streaming probably for about an hour and a half again. We'll see. All right. Gun affix ideas. We need something like really creative, something cool, something fun to work on. Let's see. Chance not to consume ammo on fire. I mean, that would be an easy one to do. Increased damage. We got blight status, fire status. Well, okay, so we got potentially do a new enemy type or do fire status. Because a fire status would bring into the gun affix here. Yeah, I need to brainstorm some more creative ideas than these. I mean, these will probably all get implemented in some way, but gotta have something with like a strong identity, something that's like really, really fun. Okay, well, let's do... I do want to do fire damage, so let's go ahead and work on that. And depending on how long that takes, then maybe we can work on another enemy type as well. All right, let's get it done. We'll do fire status. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at my poison status here. And the particle is not working. Maybe I'll just fix this while I'm in here. Whoops. And then how do I fix this again? I think I go into here. Yeah, the color initial ramp is being reset for some reason. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab that and put it back in there. Create a new color ramp. I don't know what the deal is with this. There we go. It's so weird. I don't know why that's not working. Well, I'm going to assume that the Godot devs will fix it, but we'll model this after our poison status. So this is kind of like a fire here, except it's poison. So we're basically going to do the same thing. And this class here is extends base status. So let's just, we might as well just duplicate this. No need to do extra work, right? So we're going to duplicate this and call it fire status. Duplicate. There's our fire status right there. Rename this to fire status. We are going to, just to be safe, we're going to undo that process material and create a new one. So we're starting fresh. And tick timer. Perhaps we don't do, well, we probably do want a tick timer in here, so that's fine. Now, here's the thing. Blood status? Oh, it's called bleed status. So there's several places where I'm doing like a calculation for how long something should last. And something that does damage over time has a tick timer. And so I'm wondering if I should abstract that tick timer or at least bring it up to the base status. The base status, of course, is the base class that controls all the common functionality between the different status types. I don't want to get it cluttered too much with specific logic. But, okay, so poison status, we need to remove this script and create a new script called fire status. This is going to be game, what is it called? Game component status. And what are we going to do? We're going to make that extend base status. And basically I'm just going to copy all of this. Okay. Why is this not working? Oh, it doesn't implement apply. Cool. All right, so basically this is this is basically all the So you see how much this is a copy paste. It's basically all the same as the poison status. What's the difference between poison, fire, and bleed? Good question. So poison is damage over time. Bleed is, it's a debuff that allows you to do more. It makes the enemy that's bleeding take more damage. So like it's like 10% more damage per bleed stack. And fire, that's a good question that you ask about fire, because we should probably figure out a good way to differentiate fire from poison, right? So if you have any ideas on how to make fire a unique status beyond just dealing damage, I'm thinking maybe fire instead of, well, maybe we can have it still deal damage, but maybe it can do something like damage nearby enemies as well. Maybe the interesting thing we could do is make fire... Yeah, just kind of like damage nearby enemies. The other thing we could do is we could make it so that we could make it have some interaction with bullets. So when a bullet hits an enemy that's on fire, maybe it can cause little explosions, or maybe it can shoot out little fireballs from an enemy that's on fire, right? So like shoot out a fireball in a random direction when you strike an enemy that's on fire. Could do something like that, like something interesting where it's not just like a direct damage nearby enemies. So the problem is I have in here a passive, different passive types. So this one right here, spread insert status here to nearby enemies. So I was going to have a version of this passive for every debuff type. So like if you have spread bleed to nearby enemies, then bleed will automatically be spread to nearby enemies whenever an enemy is bleeding. And that's just like a player passive that you can take. And so you could just like fill the screen. So I don't want to make it, I'm kind of hesitant to make it deal damage to nearby enemies because that passive may take care of that case. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of where I'm at. So let's think about this. Well, we can do this. Let's see. Apply. So we want to increment the stacks. This is all good. So yeah, these ticks right here. I could make like a tick counter component, I guess, but maybe we'll just leave it as is with a little bit of duplication. So tick base damage. Yeah, okay. So, and this is going to tick every 0.5 seconds. Cool. All right. So what can we do? I kind of like the fireball idea, honestly, where you hit an enemy that's on fire and it shoots a fireball just in a random direction. But the question is that better served as like a player passive or an affix or something? The other thing we could do to differentiate fire is it could be a damage over time, but it could tick less frequently. So it, you know, the poison does like a tick of damage every half a second, but we could make this one do a tick of damage every like second and a half. And so it's more, the time between damage is a lot longer. I don't know if that differentiates it enough. Probably not. That sounds lame, actually. We're gonna not do that. That sounds really lame. Saw your stream from a few hours earlier. I think it's a really fun passive. A really fun passive that shows up after you get Blood Boys might be for Blood Boys explosions to inflict bleed, allowing for chain reactions. Yeah, so that's really interesting. The thing is, so I think that same goal can be achieved. First of all, I do want to do that. I do want to have chain reactions because that's going to make this game really fun, especially when your build clicks together. I think the thing is, though, that you could probably achieve that in a more indirect way. So I don't want to end up with a situation where like you have to have this passive in order for this passive to work, right? But what could happen is, well, for one, we could just bake that into the Blood Brothers, just like they apply bleed automatically, right? We could bake that in. That would make the passive really, really strong. And there's ways we can nerf it. But that's one thing we could do. The other thing we could do is just say that, so I was just talking a little bit earlier, I have this passive idea right here to spread status effects to nearby enemies. So basically what would happen is you would apply bleed to an enemy, and then every like half a second or something, it would apply bleed to all enemies in that area around, or in an area around that. And so you could combine that spread passives to nearby enemies. You could apply that effect with the Blood Brothers together, and then you've kind of indirectly arrived at what you suggested, which is having a chain reaction, right? Because then, if the bleed is spread to an enemy that you didn't shoot directly, and then the Blood Brother goes and blows him up, well, now all of a sudden, now you've got another Blood Brother without you having done anything directly. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think what I'm trying to make sure I do is like allow for these kind of combinations to happen indirectly. I don't want to make too many explicit requirements like, oh, this passive doesn't work unless you have this. That's going to happen sometimes, but for the most part, trying to make it super general, you know. Explosive damage inflicts bleed. Yeah, we could do that. Yeah, for sure. Definitely something to play with. But let's think about, well, while we're thinking about how we can differentiate fire, let's go ahead and design the particle effects. Fire particles are actually some of my favorite things to do. So watch and learn. Actually, I'm not even sure if you guys are going to like my particle effect, but I'll explain generally how I do it. So the thing about fire really is that you have to make it look like fire. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. That's all you need to know. So I usually apply like a really slight negative gravity to it. And then I'll make the direction up in the up direction. I typically do no spread because it doesn't really make sense for fire to angle itself like away from the origin. Typically fire just kind of like comes straight up, right? And then so I've got a small sphere here, emission radius. I give it usually just a tiny bit of randomized initial velocity. And then the important thing also is the color ramp, which is probably not going to work, and so we're not going to see it. So I add the color ramp. Let me see. So there's a color ramp here. Is this color ramp? Let's see. So we'll just save this. And this goes in resources, particles, gradient. So this is called gradient. Wait, am I dumb? Did I spell gradient wrong twice? Gradient, fire, initial, ramp. I did spell gradient wrong in a couple places, so I'm going to rename that. Gosh. Oh, wait. Did I just forget to delete the old ones? Okay, so I can delete this one. Rename this one. Okay. So now we've got our fire ramp saved, and so drop that in there. And you can see that it's not working. No colors are taking effect. This is super annoying. There we go. Okay. It's fine. Hello, Sag Leaf. Hello, Shadow. Question for everyone that just joined. I'm adding a fire like status effect, so like poison and bleed. How do we differentiate fire from the other statuses? So we've got poison, which deals damage over time. We've got bleed, which increases the amount of damage that entities take when you hit them. And we've got an oil status, which hasn't been mentioned much, but the oil status slows the enemies by a certain amount for every stack of oil on them. What do we do with fire? How do we give fire a unique identity? Any ideas would be cool. Okay, so I'm going to change this draw order. How do I do that? I think that's probably fine. Actually, I don't want this to be an initial ramp. I want this to be an actual gradient ramp. Because I want it to go from white to darker. That's what I want. So we're going to get rid of that color initial ramp. There we go. And then we're going to change... Perfect. Okay, so that's looking better. Scale is one of the best things we can do here to make it look a little bit better. And for fire, you can keep it at max scale for a little bit longer. I like to give it a little bit of explosiveness as well. Oops. Okay, the other thing that we need to do is we need to make sure not all of these particles are the exact same. So we're gonna change the animation properties down here. Okay, we're getting there. And then we want to change the initial angular velocity needs to change as well. So we'll do negative 480 and positive 480. That's probably too much. Negative 369. That's probably too much too. Let's just do 180. Okay, that's looking better. Oh, here comes the cat ruining the stream. There he goes. And then we're going to change the angle to be a random from 0 to 360. Cool, cool, cool. All right, let's see what you guys are saying over here. Maybe fire intrinsically spreads to nearby enemies. That could be a thing. I just don't want to make the passive that I have planned redundant. And maybe the answer is just don't do that passive. Maybe that's just a bad passive idea and it's limiting my abilities to be creative with the individual things. Add a different color to the status. Also, I agree with Jack. Okay, so that's 2 votes for making fire spread intrinsically. Maybe fire can extend to other enemies. Spread? Yep, yeah, okay, so we got 3 votes now. Fire could change the tint of the enemies on fire to an orangish. That's an interesting idea. That's actually a really interesting idea because I was trying to figure out how to make it really clear that status effects are on enemies. But I think because everything's so chaotic, I might just have to put like little icons above their head for each status effect. Maybe it spreads on death to not conflict with your spreading effects passive idea. That could be a thing. Yeah, like an explosion on death that spreads fire. Or how about this? Listen to this one. How about this one? Ready for this one? Enemies that die leave a patch of burning ground at the place that they died that persists for a number of seconds, and any enemy that passes through that flaming ground has the fire effect, the fire status applied to them. How's that sound? I like what Jack is saying. Okay, so yeah, we got a lot of votes for spreading the fire somehow. Cat. Maybe. Really like that idea. So we've got, so Soundsy thinks, yeah, create a patch of burning ground on death. So that is an interesting idea. Maybe when alive they leave a trail while being on fire. That's a cool idea as well. That's a cool idea as well. So we can either have the enemies have a trail of fire or leave a patch of fire ground. That is a way to spread fire, yeah. Yeah. So if we do a patch of burning ground, we still have to deal with, like, what does the fire effect do while it's on the enemy? Because if the fire effect only spreads fire, then it's kind of like pointless. I guess we can just make fire do damage like poison, with the added bonus that fire can spread, right? Maybe that's what we do. What if enemies on fire take damage over time, but the player gets hit by the enemy on fire, they get the same on fire as well? Yeah, that's an interesting idea. So yeah, JZ3R0, I'll just call you J, because that's what your profile picture is. That is something that I have planned. So there will be interaction between oil and fire. So my plan is that if you combine the fire and the oil statuses together, it will create an explosion for sure. I definitely want to do that. By the way, how's everyone liking the next iteration of the stream layout? Is that purple bar at the bottom too much, or is it good? It's kind of like placeholder content right there. I want to do like a nice animation, like cycling through different things. But like I said, I'm just iterating on the stream layout, just trying to get it in a place where it's looking good. So let me know about that too. But let's do the fire status here. 2 votes for like it. All right, thank you. 3 votes for like it. Awesome. Man, this is so easy. I just outsource all my decision making to you all. No, it really is. It really is really helpful to have you all brainstorming with me. It's a lot of fun. So keep your ideas coming. Really enjoying this process. So that's kind of like the fire effect that we got going on here. I don't know if... I think... Where'd my gradient go? I think perhaps this needs to be shorter. There we go. I think that'll work. Did that affect my torch negatively? No. Okay, so we've got our little fire. Now there's still some things wrong with this here. Perhaps... Maybe the gravity can be up a little bit. And maybe the sphere emission can be a little bit better. Okay, I'm gonna change the render mode here. Give it a little bit more explosiveness so it looks a little bit more haphazard. I'm thinking maybe we got to play with the scale a little bit as well, and maybe the lifetime randomness. So lifetime randomness to 0.5, so we've kind of got like a different, maybe 0.25. Different lifetimes for each particle rather. And then what does turbulence do? Did I want to... I wonder if I can add some like jitter to this as well. Orbit velocity is not what we want. Okay, I don't think any of those are going to help. I think the turbulence is kind of what I was looking for. But I don't think turbulence works. Like many things in Godot 4, so I'm not going to use that yet. So let's turn down the scale minimum and turn up the scale maximum. Give it a little bit more variety. And maybe we'll turn down the particle amount just a little bit. There's something about this that's not working quite right. So every way to make pools in YouTube streams, I don't know what that means. Pools in YouTube streams. If fire, so I think it could be interesting if fire left a trail on the enemy it affects and deals damage to the other enemies that pass over the trail. Okay, so it doesn't deal damage to the enemy directly. It only affects the other enemies. That could be, yeah, that could be really interesting. The challenge with that though is like, and this is me being lazy, it's like I'd have to come up with a way to exclude the current enemy from his own damaging trail, which probably wouldn't be hard, but I'm trying to think about like, how can I build these features while minimally extending the core functionality of the game? Because this game has to get out some point, gee dang it. Do you use a low number of big particles for performance or stylistic reasons? I do it mostly for stylistic reasons. So I figured out when I made Haywire with a friend of mine, so this game right here, Haywire, that if you use really chunky, flat particles, as you can see in this little snippet here, use really chunky, flat particles and then don't use any transparency whatsoever and make them all just like shrink to zero, you get something that's like really cartoony and vibrant, and I just love that look. So I just use chunky particles in small amounts, and I never use transparency on them. And I think it looks really nice. And as long as you pick the right colors, it actually, it turns out really good. Oh, let me just see if I can play this for you. So yeah, look at those particles right there. Like, that's just super cool. So yeah, I learned a lot from making this game about making particles. We just went chunkiness to the max on this one. Oh, died. Anyway, so yeah, stylistic reasons. Oh, polls. Oh yeah, I can do polls, I think. What platforms would you release it on if you could release it on any platform? I'm gonna do the standard 3 big ones. Steam. Wait, platforms. You mean like desktop platforms? Well, it'll be Linux, Mac, and PC, and then probably Steam, maybe itch.io. What if the flame bursts when it is first lit but then dies down over time? Okay, that's interesting, yeah. Maybe use 2 sprites for the forms. I don't know what that means. Is that referring to the polls as well? Okay. What was I doing in here? Oh yeah, I was just gonna pick a color in here. Maybe like a red or something. I'm just gonna see what happens if I insert another color into this gradient. So, like, I'm kind of interested to see if I did like a blue in here. It's probably not going to work, but let's find out. No, that looks terrible. Okay, never mind. Maybe I need another darker orange or something. So maybe it needs to progress from the light colors a little bit faster. Oops. Okay, that's looking a little bit better. That looks a little bit better. Yeah. Give it one more layer of Actually, you know what I'm going to do as well? I'm going to take a near black color, this really dark purple here. I'm going to add that as like the final stage. So then you get like a little bit of black up here. There we go. One thing that I was really interested to play around with too is like outlining the particles. So let's just do a little tangent here. So if I put the particles in a canvas group like that, and then I do an outline shader on the canvas group, outline canvas group, reset all of these, change the color to, I don't know, like, let's just do black so we can see it really easily. And then if I run this scene and see what that looks like. Oh, that's not right. It's not the proper scale. I don't know. You can kind of see what I'm going for. So I wonder if, like, I'm kind of curious to play around with that. Make the particles look like one blob with an outline. What other status effect would I like to have? I have an idea to do like a blight status, but I don't really know. The problem is like coming up with unique identities for each status, because I don't want to have a bunch of statuses that just look the same. But are you planning on adding melee weapons to the game? I'm not, because the thing is, like, all of the passives and affixes revolve around bullets being used. Now, I could go the tiny rogues route, where the melee weapons are just doing exactly what Jay said here, which is like shooting swords, or sorry, what Shadow said, which is like shooting swords out of guns. And that could be a quote unquote melee weapon, and it could have like a really short range. But it's like melee weapons in a traditional sense don't really work with the formula I have, because remember, each gun is composed out of three distinct parts. And so it'd be like, what would a melee weapon look like if it was like, if it had like the shotgun barrel on it? You know what I mean? It just kind of doesn't work. But I could have a weapon that shoots swords of some kind, and that can be the melee weapon. Like Archvale. Yeah, kind of like that. That particle effect looks kind of cool. I kind of like that. It looks super chunky. Anyway, something to think about, but not something I'm going to seriously do right now. I just thought that was kind of neat. Okay, so we've got our fire effect. So that's our fire particle status. And I might actually make this... Let's see. I might make this a little bit more aggressive in terms of the lifetime. So maybe we'll make it 0.6 seconds so it looks like more of like a raging fire, perhaps. And then turn the gravity up and turn the initial velocity up. There we go. So that kind of looks a little bit nicer. Cool. So that's our effect. So it's kind of similar to our poison status, but not really. At the very least, it'll be a different color. Cool. All right, so let's figure out, we got to make a decision on how to make this differentiated. I kind of like the idea, so we can just have it do a standard like damage over time, but when the enemy dies, it will spread like a fire effect on the ground. We'll start with that. We'll see how we like it, and then we can go from there. Maybe try the trail idea if that's not working super well. But I think that's what I'm going to go for. So my tick base damage. What, cat? We're going to change this to be weaker than poison as well. So we're going to say each stack does 5% of the most damaging gun. Or, sorry, of the gun that applied the fire stats. I'm at it again. Yes. So, let's see. So I think this should just do damage. The cat's climbing all over me. Cool. Okay. Maximum stacks, and maybe we'll reduce the maximum stacks. So poison can have 10 stacks, and fire can have 5. This is all basically a copy paste from the poison, so I probably need to figure out a nice way of handling this. But, as they say, YOLO. Tick count, tick base damage. Okay, so the way that this is working is I'm setting the tick count, so duration seconds divided by tick timer.wait time. So that means that we're going to have 10 ticks total. 10 ticks total. I think let's perhaps reduce this. So maybe we'll do 2.5 as our duration. So half as much as poison. So it'll stick around for a shorter amount of time compared to poison, and it will do less damage compared to poison. But the advantage is that when you kill an enemy that's on fire, it will spread fire to any enemy that walks in the little fire area. Okay, so now we actually need to make an affix that can spread the fire. So let's go to our poison affix. And once again, we're just going to copy this, paste it in here, rename to fire affix. And we're going to rename this adds fire stack to enemies on hit up to 5. Does poison do damage based on the enemy max health? No, I'm not going to do anything that deals damage based on max health, because literally every single game that has that mechanic has to deal, of course, with the case where it's like, oh, well, there's a boss enemy, and so we have to cap the max damage at, like, 1,000 or whatever. That just seems so hacky to me. It's like if your status effect doesn't work, if your percent max health damage doesn't work generally in every scenario, and you need to like make carve outs and exceptions, that's really annoying, right? So no, it does damage based on your gun's damage. So it's always, generally speaking, anything that deals damage in this game is always tied in some way to the damage of your guns. And I gotta figure out whether it's gonna be tied to the damage of your strongest gun or tied to the damage of your weakest gun. And what I'm leaning towards is making everything tied to the damage of your weakest gun, so that the player is pressured to keep both guns roughly equivalent in power to each other. Because what I don't want to happen is like the player gets a really powerful gun and then just doesn't need to use the other gun at all. And so if I say, well, all of these statuses are going to work based off of your weakest gun, well, now you have like an interest in making sure both of your guns are up to speed, right? So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I just thought of a type of sword gun that might not go directly against everything in the game, where the sword bullets act like boomerangs. Yeah, so that's kind of how Tiny Rogues works, is that everything is ranged in that game, but the melee weapons shoot, like, there's a claymore that shoots a giant sword that basically goes out and then comes back, and it can damage enemies all along that path. It's really cool. So it's very similar. I think that's a great idea. Might be cool to add a cat into the game as a familiar that applies bleeding status to enemies. Yeah, like cat scratch. Okay, so on entity collision, fire status. Literally had to change one line. Okay, there's our fire affix. And now the question is, what do we do? How do we test this? I think what I'll do is the player starts with a worm gun. So I'll just add it as a guaranteed affix right here. I also need to add it to the affix registry. So new fire affix. Perfect. And let's run this. Came to take a break from networking. I hate it so much. Yeah, networking sounds very difficult. And there's our enemies that are on fire. You can see it's doing a little bit of damage every tick. Does it tick 5 times? Yep, looks like 5 ticks. Perfect. Sweet. So our fire status is basically in good shape here. I might make it even a little bit more aggressive in terms of the gravity here. We'll do like negative 125. See how that looks. You're on fire today. A lot of streams. Well, we're making fire today. Yeah, I've started like messing with the stream layout, and so I was like, well, I might as well try it and see what everyone thinks. Also, I'm trying to get just content built. I generally don't stream when I'm doing a lot of systems work because it's kind of boring. Building content is a lot more fun, and I'm kind of like on a content sprint right now, just trying to build out a lot of the game's stuff before I work on the more core stuff some more. Okay, so fire's working good. So I'm going to undo that change that I made. Actually, I'll just commit everything except for the worm receiver change that I made. Okay, so that's the fire status. Would you be able to make it produce light? I would, yes. I could do that. The problem right now is, like, if I add too many lights in Godot 4, I get horrendous black boxes. Let me show you. Look at that. That's what I'm dealing with whenever too many lights are on the screen. So basically, I'm just like not interested in adding lights right now because it's just screwing everything up. But I will definitely do that. I'm gonna, like, none of this stuff is final. I'm gonna have to go through the game and like do like another pass on particles and everything. Guess if you can make the fire spread when killed the way you want, maybe to balance it, the enemies that were hit by the flame on the ground can't spread it again. Yeah, we could see how it works. Forgot about the boxes, yep. Did they fix the light stuff in beta 12? Negative. Thanks for the C# stuff in Godot 4, you're welcome. Medieval rave, yeah. Boring question. How do you plan to market Gunforged? TikTok, oh no, you outed the name of the game. That's okay. Everyone here probably has already seen. I might as well say it now. So, the name of the game is Gunforged, and the Steam page is up right now. Don't tell any of my other subscribers, though, because I want to do like a big announcement video. But let's see. If anyone hasn't seen it, I'm going to pull it up real quick. Where the heck is it? It's not showing up on Google. Here's the game's Steam page. So the game is called Gunforged. It's on Steam right now. I'll put the link in the chat so you all can go wishlist it. No, that's all right. So there's the link to the Steam page. Can I pin this? Sorry, I'll answer your original question in just a minute. Thank you, Shadow. Yeah. Bit of a boring question. Okay, so yeah, so back to your original question. How do I plan to market Gunforged? No, I will not be doing anything on TikTok. Even if it helps me, I just don't want to deal with that digital crack. But I am going to, basically YouTube is going to be my main marketing. I'm hoping that that's enough, but maybe I'll pay somebody to market the game too. I'll probably reach out to a bunch of content creators myself. But I'm hoping that, you know, between the email list and maybe I'll send an email to my Udemy students. I don't know if that's appropriate, but I might send anyone who's enrolled in my Udemy courses, I might send a promo email to. Probably mostly just YouTube, though. You're going to see me mentioning this game a lot in the next number of devlogs. So, no, yeah, it's not. I'm just giving you a hard time and just teasing. It's not really undercover. I did make the Steam page and publish the Steam page, and I got the art. It's just the YouTube audience is much larger than anything else, and so when I make a video on YouTube, there's not going to be nearly as many people that have seen it. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's still going to be the case. Like, no one's going to watch this live stream VOD. Well, not compared to my devlogs. Thank you all for the wish lists. Thank you. Is there a predicted price? I won't say anything about the price. I would be shocked. Here's what I'll say. I would be shocked if it's any more than $10. I think it's very likely that it'll be less than $10, but I don't think it'll be anything more than $10. But again, it depends on where this game goes. If I just like crank out a ton of content, it becomes this really massive, sprawling game. Maybe it'll be $10 or more, but under $10 is what I'm thinking. Thanks for the C# toolkit. Very handy. You're welcome. Maybe I'll do, I don't want to think too far ahead, but I'll probably do, like, when the game launches, I'll probably do a giveaway on the channel. Give away a couple of Steam keys as well. 10 to 15 is reasonable. That's what I'm thinking, too. I'm kind of erring on the side of, like, under $10 just because I haven't really proven myself as, like, a commercially successful game developer yet. And so I just kind of want to, like, make a great game, price it pretty cheaply, and then off of that, hopefully my next games I can charge a little bit more because people will know my track record and all that stuff. But it's too early to be thinking about all that. I have to finish the game first. So we'll focus on that in the immediate. I was just hoping less than 20. Wow. Yeah. Okay. So what are we doing? We got to make this flame spread now. That's going to be interesting. How are we going to make this flame spread? So we'll probably put it in the fire status itself. So I think what I'll do in here, let's grab a reference to or store a reference to the health component. Up in here, we're going to set that value. So var Health component is equal to that. Oh, nope, not var, just that. Okay. And then we'll say health. So we'll just replace it down there. So now we've got a reference to the health component. We can say health component dot died plus equals on died. And this is where we're going to spawn that effect. So now the thing is, we got to figure out how to actually do this. And I think the way to do it is, so let's create I'm going to copy that, GPU particles. Let's create a new scene. 2D scene. Let's say fire area, just something really boring. Scenes, game object. Where are we going to put this? Bullet. Do we put it in an environment? No, probably not. Probably game object. Let's just say effect, maybe? We'll call it effect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a hitbox component. Perfect. Let's create a new collision shape. We'll give it a circle radius of 64. That might be a little bit much, but we'll try it. Let's paste the GPU particles in there. We're going to make this unique. And then we're going to change the sphere radius to be 64. And perhaps we could give it like an outline too, but now the question is there a way to so sphere surface looks like a way to this is probably not going to look great. Okay, new plan. What happens if I... That's going to be a little bit challenging. How am I going to make this not look terrible? Might have to introduce some other kind of effect here. Just keep promoting those wish lists. Yep, I'm planning to. Planning to release a game in the Play Store with ads. Nice. I'd buy this game for $60. Well, thank you. That's very kind. Seeing all the behind-the-scenes work makes it that much better. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that you're enjoying this process. I certainly am. Mobile developer. Yeah, mobile developer. Oh, yeah, I am the creator of Sword Slinger. Thank you for your interest in that game as well. Love it. Have a static base particle. I do not know what you mean by that. Can you elaborate? Can you shoot out a ring of fire? Start them with random rotation. I could... I just don't know how to do that. So it'd be like a ring of fire. I mean, I could do like, Give me 15 seconds here. I'm going to refill my water while I'm thinking about this. So we could use that circle explosion to do like waves of fire over time. Is that what you're referring to? Shoot out a ring of fire. I could do something like that. A sprite that stays on the ground because it looks odd with all the particles rising into the air. Yeah, I'm thinking that too. I'm thinking maybe we just leave this flame here in the center, and then we shoot out circle explosions. What will be my playtesting process? My team is getting close to that point with our game. I'm curious, since you're a lot closer to launch. Yeah, see, I don't know. The thing is, like, I haven't really released a commercially successful game, and so I can only speculate about what a successful launch and marketing process looks like. I can tell you that I didn't do those things well in all of my prior games, and so that's why the wish list, or that's why the Steam page is up now. This game is probably 6 more months out, if I had to guess. So 6 months of wish list collecting, even though the game's not that close to a finished state. Playtesting, what I'll probably do is I'll probably release like a limited demo on Steam and then have people post like in the Steam forums all of their feedback, just so I can have it all in one place. So it'll be a limited demo with limited content that's designed very specifically to test like how the game plays. That's kind of what I'm thinking of doing. And of course I'm asking my friends, like my closest friends, to play test and give me feedback as well. And your feedback here on these videos is actually really helpful too, so all of those things together will hopefully make the game better, but we'll see. Free demo. Yeah, there will be a playtesting demo. I don't know about doing a free demo that's based on the full game. I mean, I don't see why not, I guess. Probably do that. It's just extra work, I suppose. But it's probably a smart move. Okay, so let's try doing a circle explosion, actually. So if I do a resource preloader here, I do circle explosion there. I really need to make a manager for this circle explosion stuff. Because what I'm doing for these explosions is I'm just like copying this and bringing it over. That's not even like a good one to copy. I'll just copy this one. Maybe I should move this. Sorry, I'm gonna move the fire area, I think, to the effect directory here. Yeah, I think that's better. So what I'm gonna do is I got this timer here. We'll call it pulse timer. Wait time 0.5 seconds. We'll say it'll do 4 pulses. On timer, we need to grab that pulse timer. So on pulse timeout. We'll just paste that code in there, and then we got our resource preloader. So we're going to take that circle explosion, we're going to add it to the floor, we're going to set the color to probably, what should we set the color to? Probably this orange here. Set thickness, 16, the radius. Honestly, I should probably actually just get the radius from this collision shape so that it's just automatic. So let's do that. So we're going to grab that collision shape 2D dot shape collision shape 2D dot shape as circle shape 2D dot radius. And then circle global position is equal to global position, and we don't need this. And so on pulse timeout, then we're going to say pulse timer dot start. So I'll create an int called current pulses. We will say current pulses plus, so we increment that. If the current pulses is less than the number of total pulses, we're going to start the timer again. Else queue free. We're going to need to clean that up because we want to gracefully terminate the particle system, but that's fine the way it is. Set this to auto start. So we've got the fire area, and then our fire status. Drag the fire area into a resource preloader right there. We'll grab that node again. And then what we'll do is we'll say yeah, we'll just do this for now. What am I doing? Resource preloader, instance scene or null, fire area. Thank you. This dot get main dot floor dot add child. I should probably make this correctly, so we'll say floor.addChild fire area dot global position is equal to global position. Okay, that ought to do it. And so we've got this hurtbox component now, which is going to be looking for enemies. Actually, I don't think I need this hurtbox component anymore, maybe. Actually, yeah, I think I did all that work for nothing. Oh no. Well, we'll just see how it looks first. Okay, let's see how that looks. Made another stream, nice, yep. Welcome Madness, welcome Mikes. So that's essentially what the area is going to look like, is it's just going to pulse like that. We'll probably make it slower though. Maybe double the duration. So it's a little bit slower. That circle explosion stuff is getting very unwieldy. So yeah, so we can have the flame look like that, right? So instead of it being a giant area with all these messy particles, it's just like a single thing that's pulsing like that and can apply the effect on each pulse. Now the Trixie thing... Sorry, there's something wrong here. Cannot access a disposed object, huh? Oh, I wonder if it got applied at just the right time. I think this may have gotten applied while the entity was dying, and then that created an issue. Is that hunch correct? Because it thinks on line 75 that the object was disposed already. This.getMain. Actually, I'm not exactly sure why that would be the case. It's time to refactor with rainbows, yeah. The dreaded refactoring. I actually don't know why this is happening. Cannot access a disposed object. Is it related to this? I don't know why that's happening. There's a number of issues with my circle explosion that I should probably fix. Should we fix them now? Let's get the status applying to other enemies first, and then see what happens. So the fire area. How do I do this? What am I doing with my life? There's a way to, oh yes, add status to apply. So I need to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say circle. And there is a problem here too, which is very, very difficult, which is that, so a lot of so the fire damage is based on, well, fire damage, poison damage is based on the damage of your weakest gun. The problem is that, wait, is that actually a problem? No, I'm actually incorrect. So when you apply the fire status to an entity, it takes the gun stats, which is the object that represents essentially a snapshot of the stats of the gun that shot the bullet. So this contains all of the calculated damage, affixes, all of that stuff. It's just an object that can be passed around. That object sorry, I'm just looking at this. So that object contains a damage property, right? Now I'm getting confused. Wait a minute. Now I'm getting confused. I guess I'm going to have to decide whether I want to use the damage per second as my calculation for damages, or if I'm going to use the base damage. Because something can have a damage of like 1,000, but if you can only shoot, one bullet every 3 seconds, then it might actually have less DPS than damage per second than another gun, right? So, but I'm using them in the mixed ways. So I'm using damage per second in some places, and I'm using just straight damage here in some places. So, anyway. We'll figure that out later. But So anyway, that gun stats object that's going into the fire status, for instance, and providing the damage, which is the damage that the fire tick does, this gun stats object gets lost sort of immediately, right? But with this fire area going to apply new fire status, it would be nice if I could take that same exact gun stats object and also apply that to the nearest enemies. So I need to figure out a way to pass on sort of that exact gun stats object, and maybe I don't even want to do that. Maybe I just want to say, you know, make a best guess as to which gun should apply the damage. I don't know. There's some trickiness here that I'm going to need to figure out. Yeah, so exactly. Pi, Jacqueline, that's exactly the problem. It's like, do I use DPS or do I use the base damage? I'm guessing I probably want to use DPS in almost all instances. So in that case, this should actually be damage per second, which is actually going to be a far greater number than the base damage, right? Unless your fire rate is less than 1 bullet per second. So this is actually going to make the damage go up real high. But I might as well make that change now. Or I can make it all based on damage. Well, here's a question. Hello? Okay. Here's a question. What stat is shown to the player? Maybe that's the more important thing. So, see, I'm not actually showing the damage to the player. I'm showing the DPS instead. And so maybe this is the number that I base everything off of, because this is the number that the player can see. If I base it just off of damage, which is sort of the underlying stat from which the DPS is calculated, then I could see that being very confusing for the player. They'll be like, what is this? Where is this damage coming from? Right? So I think I should probably make everything based on the bullets per second. Or the damage per second, rather. So yeah, let's do that. Okay, now that we figured that out, yeah, I agree, DPS is probably the better option. I think that's right. Now that we figured that out, let's see. Fire area. So we got the circle, add status to apply. Fire status dot scene path. So this should be working now in terms of just spreading the status. There we go, it's working. See? It applied the fire to that enemy. Let's see if I can make it work again. There we go, see, it applied. Look at that. Super cool. I'm still seeing errors though, that's interesting. Oh, this is different. Yeah, so there's no gun stats in this case. Oh, man. Well, one option is to store the last applied gun stats in here, right? So I could say, but I don't know if I want to do that. So in my hurtbox component, I can configure what statuses I want to confer to whatever hurt box I want. And in here, it's applying a null gun stats, which is obviously problematic. Where even is this being set? Oh, hitbox component gets statuses to apply. Add status to apply. Oh no, this is so bad. Why is the fire dealing 0 damage? It's because the gun stats don't exist. So the gun stats is where all the damage comes from. And when the fire area is applying the status, there's no connection to the gun stats at all. Like, this object is not connected to any bullet that's been fired, right? And so I don't know what gun stats to use, right? Now, what I could do is I could say, well, find me the gun that has the fire affix. But then it's like, well, what if both guns have fire affixes? What's the gun that originally shot the bullet, you know? And so I need to figure out a way to, like, preserve the gun stats between all of these things that need to pass damage around. I don't know if that makes sense, but... Well, while we're thinking of that, I can actually create another circle here. And I actually don't need this hitbox component here, so I'm going to get rid of that. So we'll just hard code the radius in there, get rid of that collision shape. So I'm going to create another circle, and we're going to make it probably this color here. We'll give this circle a delay of 0.2 seconds. We're going to set this thickness down lower, and then radius there. So we're firing off 2, and you'll see what that looks like. So if I go back into the game, deal flat damage. Well, the problem is, like, all of the enemies scale in health. And so if you did flat damage, the fire would become useless after a certain amount of time. Maybe I want to reverse those. Maybe I want this to be 0.2. So, like, everything scales as the game goes on, so the damage of the guns scales, the enemy health scales. And the reason for that is there has to be pressure on the player to keep changing their guns. Because if there was no scaling, you'd land on a really good gun and just, like, use that the rest of the game. Instead of, like, having sort of like a dynamically changing experience, you know? There's something happening here. Oh, it's the same issue. How do we get the gun stats down to where they need to be? Maybe four pulses is a little bit much. Cool. Scaling is good if you find a dominant strategy or gun. Enemy types and resistances can help. Yeah, that's true. I think what I'm going to basically do is just like the scaling is basically going to make a lot of your guns obsolete after like 3 or 4 waves. So you can get a powerful gun and maybe it'll be powerful for like an arena or a group of floors, but you won't be able to find a gun in the beginning and take it all the way to the end. You'll basically have to keep upgrading. But resistances are a good idea. All right, give me just like a minute break. I'm gonna take a quick break, and then I'll be right back. We're gonna figure out once and for all what to do with this gun stat stuff. So I will be right back. All right, I'm back. Another live stream. Yes, indeed. Renaud, welcome back. So, what are we going to do about this? What are we going to do about this gun stats issue? Let's commit what I have real quick before I screw it up. Fire status. All right, so what are we going to do? Perhaps I think the best thing to do, honestly, is just to take... I really don't like the solution, but I think public gun stats. Do I need to make it public? I think I just do protected gun stats, last applied gun stats. Something really ridiculous like that. And then what I'm going to do in here is on apply. Dang it. I'm going to change some architecture stuff here, or some class structure. So I'm going to make apply on the abstract class of base status. That's going to increment the stacks of the status effect. Then this is going to call apply internal, which is going to be this. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say last applied gun stats is equal to gun stats dot duplicate. And the reason I'm duplicating it is because I want to create a snapshot of this gun stats as it was when it hit me. Because these are passed, the gun stats is typically passed around by reference. And so if it changes in the future, I don't want that to affect the snapshot that I took when it was initially applied. So we'll duplicate it so that we have our own instance of that. And then we'll call this apply internal. And we're going to make this a protected method. Move it down here. And so now apply is public. It does two things always. It increments the stacks and applies and sets the last applied gun stats. And then it calls apply internal. And that's where I'm going to change this to apply internal protected like that. So now I'm very narrowly defining what the behavior of each status is. If that makes sense. Unfortunately, that means I have to go through all these now. And restructure everything. But not a big deal. And honestly, I probably don't even need to pass the gun stats down that much anymore. Because I can just reference the last applied gun stats in here if I needed to. But it doesn't hurt anything. Okay, I think everything's good now. All right, I think that's okay. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. Well, I didn't think this far ahead, so let me think. Let me think this far ahead. Let's see. How long does it usually take you to make a devlog video? Long time. Typically anywhere from 5 to 10 hours from start to finish. Could make it two different status effects, Fire 1 and Fire 2, that are binded to a specific gun. That is a solution. I think that would cause a lot of duplication, though. I'm trying to keep it general, trying to keep the architecture as general as possible. The structure of how the data flows through the code. So yeah, what am I doing? What am I doing? So now I need to figure out how to get this is just a nightmare. This is a nightmare. So in here, I'm calling add status to apply on the circle, which is referencing the hitbox component add status to apply. And so, so this get statuses to apply is referenced in the hurtbox component when deciding how to apply the statuses, and this null right here is supposed to be a gun stats value. So I basically need to go from this fire status, I need to go to the fire area. This is talking from the perspective of a gun stats. So imagine you're a gun stats object. There's a fire status, so you're in here. You need to get past to the fire area. You need to get past from the fire area to the circle explosion. From the circle explosion to the circle explosion's hitbox component. And then you need to somehow be surfaced to the hurtbox component in here. So we've got like 6 different places to jump between, which is very ugly and very nasty and very bad. So what should I do about this? What should I do? I mean, the obvious thing to do is to sort of reduce the amount of jumps that I need to do from the circle explosion to the hitbox component, right? I think one thing that I can do to immediately simplify things is make this hitbox component public so I can just configure it directly. The other thing to do would be to, I mean, the way that I want to do it, and maybe it's the time to do so, is create like a circle explosion creator function that can take an object with a bunch of parameters, with a bunch of arguments or a bunch of members, whatever it's called, that have a bunch of variables on how I want the circle explosion and its hitbox to be configured. And then when I transfer statuses from hitbox here, perhaps I associate a gun stats object with a hitbox component. I should do something very helpful. Yeah, I should do something. Dang it. Dang it. Well, at this point, almost anything that I could do would be better than this. That's just the truth. Well, nothing's going to get done by me sitting here thinking about it, so let's just start. Why did it create a particles? Oh, because I clicked the wrong button. Circle explosion manager, is that what I'm calling it? Yep. So we got a circle explosion manager. We will just throw that in the auto load so it's always available. Okay. Let's build that. Project settings, auto load. We're going to go ahead and add the circle explosion manager to our auto load list. Okay. The other thing we're going to do is public circle explosion args. So this public class. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we are going to take a look at all the parameters that we typically like to use here. So what am I going to do? Firstly, I'm going to have a public list statuses to apply. And actually, do I want to do that? Yeah, I think I do. We'll set a default thickness here, maybe to 8. Give it a default radius as well. So those are kind of the arguments that we want to apply when we're creating a circle explosion. So we're going to create a method called create circle explosion. Oh, and then the other thing that we want to do, well, I'm getting ahead of myself, but the other thing that we want to do is we want to decide which layer it should be on. And maybe it shouldn't even be, well, let's do this then. Let's create a public node parent. Something like that. I don't know exactly if this is going to be... Why is this not working? I don't understand. Oh, it was just an error. Okay. I don't know if this is going to be the final form, but these are kind of like things that I need. So I need the parent, and then I also need the vector 2 position. Okay, so those are all the things that I'll want to set when I'm creating circle explosion. Okay. And basically, I'm just going to more or less copy everything that's here. So instance scene or null circle explosion, yep. We're going to say args.parent.addChild. We'll just take the easy route for now. So we'll loop through all the statuses to apply and apply that. Set color. We'll set the duration and the delay right there. Okay. Why does this not... Oh, I need to set instance private static circle explosion manager instance equals this. Okay. And then we're going to return circle. So that's basically how we're doing now. We're not done because we want to extend this here because we still aren't doing anything with these gun stats. Just got back what am I working on. I'm trying to create a more clean way of creating explosions and transferring the necessary data that I have from those explosions to secondary effects. So a little bit of refactoring going on right now. But basically, yeah, we're still working on that fire area here. And we're trying to figure out how to pass the gun stats to the next, what's the word I'm looking for? To the next enemy that gets caught in sort of the explosion radius. Okay, so now the question is, we gotta transfer the gun stats. So public gun stats. Do I want to do that? So we're going to have this method in the hitbox component called set gun stats to transfer. And then I'm going to say we are again going to duplicate it, so we have a new reference. So we've got our gun stats to transfer. get statuses to apply, and then we're going to have another one called, and honestly, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, let's just make this a get private set and public. So there's our gun stats to transfer, and then when we're over in the hurtbox component, when we're transferring statuses from hitbox, I'm actually going to change this to transfer effects. No, I guess that makes sense. Okay, so now we've replaced that with the gun stats to transfer here, which could still be null, but that's good. And then, hoo boy, there's all kinds of tangled webs going on right now I gotta tie back together. So set gun stats to transfer. Right, so in here now, in my Circle Explosion Manager, circle, set gun stats. Oh, I want to make, so one change I'm going to make is I'm going to make this public. So public, hitbox component, and then get private set. And apparently I made a bunch of things angry down here, so. Okay. So now that that's public, I can say circle.hitbox component, and we'll call it before start, I think. Honestly, we'll call it before all of this. Circle.hitbox component dot set gun stats to transfer args dot gun stats. Okay. Hoo boy. What did I miss? You didn't miss much. I'm just refactoring, trying to get this circle explosion stuff to work a little bit nicer. Okay, so let's see. I don't know if this is actually going to work. So one thing that I need to do in the fire area is I actually need to public gun stats. Gun stats. So in here, I do actually need to set it from the fire status. So in here, fire area dot gun stats equals last applied gun stats dot duplicate. So you can see now we've established a connection. So when this fire area is created by the fire status, it's going to assign the gun stats to the last applied gun stats, which should be set and I think, well, let's not worry about that yet. So it's setting the gun stats here. And then we're going to try out our new circle thingy. So, how is this going to work? So we've got our circle explosion manager dot create circle explosion, new circle explosion args. And we basically just need to say new list. Actually, do I need to do that? Can I just do new? Nope, that doesn't work. Okay, so there's our statuses to apply. Parent is equal to that. Now what I could do is I could say Maybe just use floor as default, but one thing at a time here. So add status to apply. So now we got to do our color. Copy this. I know this isn't the most fun thing in the world to watch, but this is the reality of it sometimes. But we're almost done with this fire area, so we'll see how that works. So there's our duration now. And then our position is equal to global position. And then also, now we need to pass in that gun stats. Okay. So maybe this will work. And we'll just not pay attention to that at all. So let's see if this indeed works. If it did work, we shouldn't see anything doing 0 damage. Okay, it didn't work. Fire area 40. What is this issue? Object reference not set to an instance of object. Oh, right. I need to add the resource preloader with the circle explosion to my manager. Okay. Look at that. So it does 0 damage on the first explosion for some reason. I guess because the circle explosion expects to deal damage on the first one rather than just applying a status. So 2, 5, and 8. Is that the damage that I expect to see? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn the damage of the worm receiver down to 0 so that it just becomes a deliverer of status effects. Oh wait, that doesn't make any sense. Never mind. Because the status effects won't do any damage if I reduce the damage. Six, 9, 12. So 6 to... So... 4, 6, 9, 12. So it did do 2, 3, then 4. Right, okay, and then is it doing the same when it explodes? I think so. So I think this is working. I think we successfully passed the status effects. Yeah, I think that's working. Cool. Okay. Perfect. And then I'm going to create another one here, which is basically going to be the same thing, but we're not going to apply the gun stats. We're not going to apply statuses to apply. And the color is different. Cool, so that is simplified a little bit, and we have our gun stats flowing through now. I think the one thing that I want to do is if hitbox component, I don't want to deal damage. If hitbox component.damage is greater than 0, then we want to apply the deal damage with transforms, I think. That might be undesirable, but we'll see what happens. So now we shouldn't see that initial burst of 0 damage on enemies because the hitbox is only applying statuses on that There we go. It appears to be working. Except now they're not disappearing. What is going on? Oh, this needs to be, yeah. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to change it there. In here, set gun stats to transfer. If args.gunstats is not equal to null, then we'll set that in there. Cool. What are you talking? Wait. Okay, yeah, that's fine. I think we did it. I think we did it. Sweet. Okay, so that is working. And it's working in the way that I wanted it to. So that's really good. Is there anything that I'm missing here? Okay, so I think that's good. So we are now passing around those gun stats correctly everywhere. I did make a bunch of changes here as well. Those are all fine. Perfect, okay. So fire status done, basically. Awesome. Okay, so now what? There's one other thing I want to do with my circle explosion because there's a problem with it, and that is that the shader is off for some reason. So if I turn on this grid and I configure the snap, and I set it to 32 by 32 so we can see the grid there. If I go to my shader material here and I set my thickness to 32, that works when the radius is 64. However, well, when I change, wait, what am I saying? So there's something weird about how the calculation is done here. So if I set the thickness to 32, that looks fine. But if I set the radius to something larger like 128, the thickness actually shrinks. Right? So that's not right. If I use 32, it seems to be fine. If I use 64, it seems to be fine. If I use 128, it shrinks. And I don't know why that is. Could be something wrong with the shader, but I'm doing some weird stuff in here too, so I want to see what's going on with this. So the interesting thing here is the shader. So this is a shader that draws like a ring. But in order to be able to draw a shader, I had to draw a transparent rectangle. And maybe that's actually my problem. Maybe I have my radius set to 64 here. If I set my radius to 128, is that going to all of a sudden work? Is that working? Okay, maybe it is working. So I just need to make sure that my radius in my shader and in the class is correct. Oh, you know what? You know what's probably happening? I think I know what's happening here. What's probably happening is I'm setting the radius here. Oh no, I am queuing redraw. What in the heck? So the reason I know that this doesn't work is because if I go into that fire... If I go into that fire area here, and I say I want this duration to be 1.5 seconds, and I set the thickness to 32 or 64, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't look good. So I gotta figure out what's going on there. I mean, maybe it's okay. But I'm pretty sure I had this problem with the blood golems too. So if I take the blood golem, the radius here is 48, and I'm setting the thickness to 32. It's definitely not having a thickness of 32 when I spawn the blood golems. It should be nice and chunky, and it's not. So I really don't know what's going on there. See, it didn't change at all in terms of thickness. Is the thickness dependent on the radius or something? If I set the thickness first, is that going to work? Let's see. Whoops. Let me spawn the blood golem. Yeah, so I could set this thickness to like 128 and nothing will happen. Very, very strange, very strange. It doesn't change at all. That's so weird. So let's take a look at this shader here. So we've got thickness and radius. So the radius and the thickness are related in here. Man, I don't know what's going on here. Well, let's emulate what I'm doing with the blood golem. So I have the radius is 48, which is being set there. Thickness is 128. So let's just emulate that. So if I set my radius to 48 and I build, let's open up the circle explosion again. Okay, and then I set my thickness to 128 and my radius to 48. See, that's definitely not correct. Well, actually, it should look like that when it's coming through. So it could be that it's just... I guess it could be working correctly, but it's just, it doesn't work well. If the thickness is greater than the radius or something, I don't know. Let's change that duration to 1.5 as well. So it looks kind of chunky. Let's change it to 10. 10-second duration so we can really see what's going on here. Yeah, so that's definitely not working. It should like expand to fill the whole thing and then rise. So what is going on here? So maybe I will... What happens? I'm just curious. What happens if I cue a redraw here? I don't think it matters, but... Start. I'm queuing a redraw there. I can queue a redraw there. I guess I could also pause the game and see... I'll pause the game and see what the shader parameters are being set to. Okay, so I'm paused the game. Let's go find that circle explosion here. Oh, it's not going to show me the shader. Oh, it is. Okay. So it set the shader parameters correctly. It set the radius correctly. It won't let me go to the other screen. It set the thickness and it set the radius correctly. Oh, tricky, tricky, tricky. This is the issue right here. No, it's not. Never mind. Yeah, I actually don't know what's going on here. I don't know why it looks different in the editor and different in game. That's concerning. Am I going to add controller support? Maybe. Maybe. My understanding is that these kind of top-down shooter games are kind of hard to do with controllers, but I'll give it a shot. I could be wrong. Yeah, controller support would probably be good now that I think about it. Should be... I'm thinking it might be tricky. With the UI elements and everything, but we'll see. What am I doing wrong here? So if I set my radius to 48 here, got my radius set to 48, my thickness set to 128. It looks like this in the editor. This is gonna bother me. Let's draw the rectangle that's supposed to be transparent. And see what that looks like. Okay, never mind. Apparently that doesn't work. I guess I can just print the rectangle. Let's do that. This is definitely going to bother me until I figure it out. So it's negative 48, 96. So that is 128, right? Negative 48, 96, 96. Wait a minute. Oh, that's the size. That sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right. Okay. Okay, so that's correct. For Unity, I'm not sure if Godot has this. You can add controller support for the UI by just setting the one to start on. Well, yeah, Godot has controller like stuff, but it's not a matter of like if the controller is supported. In a technical sense, it's a matter of like usability, right? Like, you know, do I do any aim assist, or how do I make a UI that's navigable easily by controller? You know, it's that kind of thing. How do you switch, you know, I guess switching guns would be easy. You could just use the bumpers or something. It's more of like a usability thing than a technical thing. It's technically possible for sure. Just tricky in terms of user experience, that's all. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna figure this out. This is bizarre. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to figure this out. It looks like it's all the same in-game. It just doesn't look the way that it should. Which is very confusing. Is there something about this blood golem that's like overriding it or something? Explosion. I'm glad I tackled using keyboard, mouse, and gamepad early on. It's a pain. Luckily, Unity has a great asset you can purchase called Rewired. I've heard of Rewired, yeah. I think Godot's input stuff is pretty good. Oh, you know what? Maybe it's because I'm scaling it. Is it because I'm scaling this? Maybe that's it. Okay, I think it was because I was scaling it. That seems to be the problem. Okay, well, figured it out. So what happens if I set a thickness to like 16 in here? And does that actually make the game look better, or should I keep the scale? All right, perhaps I should set this back down to like 0.4 seconds. So it was because I was scaling it. There was a scale tween in there, and that's why it wasn't looking good. Yeah, I don't think I need a scale tween. I don't think I need that. Or at the very least, maybe the scale tween should be quicker. So duration divided by 4. I don't even know if that's necessary because they're mostly going to be quick. So I'll get rid of that scale there. What happens if I set this back down to like the normal duration? And the thickness was what, 16, I think? Yeah. See how that looks. I can't believe I figured it out. Holy macaronis. Yeah, I don't think I should be doing any scaling to it. I think if I want to make it look smoother, I should figure out a way to do that. And then this one, thickness, like we'll make it like 2. Always a good feeling. Yeah, it is. Thank you all for sticking through that with me. And now I think I want to move the delay up to this one. Let's spawn a mushroom as well and see what his attacks look like. Sweet. So it seems to be working just fine. So they'll die, they'll spread the status to their friends. And yeah. Awesome. Hey, thanks for the 10 SAR, Renaud. Really appreciate it. That's awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, I think, let's see. I think there are some changes in here that I don't want to keep, so I'm just making sure that everything that I did is something that I want to keep. Let's change that back to 64. 64 there, thickness 32. Perfect, okay. Change all that back. And we're gonna discard the changes to the worm receiver so it no longer applies fire. All right, we fixed it. Hooray, wow. Okay, good day, hope you're doing really well, enjoying your stream. Thank you, thank you. I also made a survival game for iOS and Android, would love to chat with you. Well, you could send an email to admin@firebelly.com if you have any questions, and that goes for everyone. So admin@firebelly.com. I try to respond to emails reasonably. So it never hurts to ask, never hurts to reach out. Does it pulse twice because once wasn't strong enough? That's a good question. I think I just kind of like set it to pulse twice, but I think probably you could just do it once. Oh, now I'm not going to have an item that... Here we go. Let's see if that pulse once works better. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Awesome. Yeah, I like that. One pulse it is. Cool. Thank you for the suggestion. All right. I think that will be it for the stream for tonight. 2.5 hour stream. Not bad. Got a lot done. Got a new fire affix. We got to move our card over. Excellent. That's it for the stream. So yeah, you can check the pinned message there in the chat to go wishlist Gunforged on Steam. And now I have to make an official announcement video for the channel. But yeah, if you guys all could wishlist it, that'd be great. You're welcome. Thanks all for watching. I'm gonna go make myself a steak dinner now. Sounds really good. All right, I will see you in the next video / the next stream. Thank you, Jay. Thank you. Consider it wish listed. Awesome. All right. Good night.